In sports, if you want to be the best, there are no off days.
Welcome into the No Off Days podcast. I am your humble host, Scott Smith, and this is my
not so humble
outrageous co-host, Chris Cato, wearing his Tiny Tap. What is Tiny Tap?
Tiny Tap.
It says it's on Morrison Avenue in Tampa.
It's a legend, Scott. It's
really?
Tampa's favorite dive bar. You don't know this?
I've never been.
Well, that's because you're not sad and about the evening at 2 in the morning and needing a place to go. The watering hole. It's a great watering hole.
All right.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Are all the taps actually very tiny?
They're super tiny. It's simple. All they serve is beer. It's one of the few places you can get Labatt's Blue on tap.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to go north of the border.
For our Canadian friends, there you go. Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot of fun. A lot of controversy this week. I don't know if you've been seeing all the rumblings with our friend Tom Brady, but I guess he's been looped into another controversy. You know, one is always kind of right there chasing him down. Deflategate, that's in the rear view, but this is now Tom Brady in the booth during a game. He's supposed to be calling the game, but now he's hanging out with the offensive coordinators and
the Raiders coaching staff.
He's
up
hanging
there
out
in the
coaching
coach's
box.
box.
Is that a big no-no? I see you have your Raiders colors on.
He's got.
Do you have a hot take on Brady?
Well, boy, the Raiders didn't look good, did they? This is getting a lot of pushback from some people. Brady sitting there with the headset on and people questioning if it looks improper. Is it a bad look for the NFL to have Brady, who is a minority owner of the Raiders?
The whole reason he's working at Fox is because it's a good look, right?
Yeah.
He's a good-looking guy.
But do they need to clean this up some? So the controversy is he's a minority owner of the Raiders. He's in the coaching box, obviously, and then you had Chip Kelly make a comment that they meet a couple of times. They meet a couple of times a week. He meets with Tom, and they talk football.
As well they should.
Chip's the offensive coordinator, and so it raises the question, well, when Tom is in his role as lead analyst for Fox, he's in production meetings remotely with coaches and players for teams that they're covering.
Yeah, and those teams obviously aren't aware that Tom owns the Raiders, right?
Right.
They must not be aware. I mean, that's what I'm like. This is, I was kind of tongue in cheek. It's controversy, but I know some people are, they have an opinion, a strong hot take on this, but it's like everybody knows. So if you're in the production meetings, maybe we just don't share these nuggets with Tom.
Well, I don't think if you've been to those production meetings, the coaches don't give anything away in those meetings.
I've heard the opposite. I've heard that they do give some game plan. They talk big picture with the team as well.
Well, they won't now if Tom's in the meeting.
Exactly. I just don't think it's a big deal. I mean, it looks that there is a look to it. I get that, but I mean, like, I think every team, knowing who Brady is and what team he owns, they probably aren't as, talkative about what their game plans, all the secret plans that they have. So
but sometimes he and other broadcasters talk to players too, and players might not be as guarded. And he has done some offside interviews like he did with the Super Bowl. And again, I don't think Tom's getting any. I don't think there's a competitive advantage being gained by the Raiders.
The whole point, right?
But I do think that I think it could be seen as conflict of interest, perhaps.
Okay.
And also,
so what do you do?
Well, I don't know. I think it becomes. Is Brady a broadcaster or is he the owner? I mean,
he's
can
both.
you wear both hats?
He wears a lot of hats. Yeah, he owns a football team and he has his own brand of clothing. He's a lot of things. So I don't know. I think that here's the thing. NFL owners signed off on this. They already knew where he was with Fox, and they knew what he wanted in the Raiders, and everybody was okay with that. So, and everybody knows going into these meetings who Tom is and what he does and who he works for and what he owns, and so I think it's like, let's just be grown-ups, and you handle it as the way as a coach or a player you think that it's best handled. I mean, look, every one of these players, whether they're guarded or not, they already know the rules when it comes to the media. There's certain things that they're not going to be talking about with the media. So I think the same goes for Brady. And, I don't really have a problem with it. I think more Brady is better for the branding of the league. So if that's in ownership and it's in the broadcast booth, I think that's a win for the NFL. I mean, I can't imagine them laying the law down and being like, hey, okay, no more of this. Like if there was like a real competitive advantage, something that he was privy to or had access to that teams were not giving him voluntarily, then yeah, that's a problem. But I don't think that that's what's being implied. So the broadcast team is going to have some idea of what to look for on the game. They get more than the normal press gets.
They're told about injuries, I believe, sometimes that could.
Yeah, probably injury-related stuff. But I also think it's like, we like this guy so much, we expect to put him in these type of situations.
Mm-hmm.
And so the broadcasting crew is not like completely unaware when they see a certain formation or a certain play in a certain package. Like I do think they get some of that intel, but. A lot of that intel is going to just be popping up on game film anyway. So, like I would be shocked if that there is, they're not going to – he's not broadcasting Raider games and getting intel and then immediately feeding. So these are, like, games that, like, let's say he does a Chiefs game and down the road the Raiders playing the Chiefs. Like, what's he going to draw from – a game that he did earlier in the season.
Well, the Raiders play the Commanders next, and he did the Commanders game on opening weekend.
So, but what added intel is he going to have that was not already put out there on the game film itself that coaches wouldn't be able to gather? I don't think it's much. I don't think it's anything, honestly. So, I don't know. I think, Brady, he's the golden boy of the NFL, and, they always like to drag him into something, make it seem like he's a nefarious actor, and I just don't know.
He looked nervous in that video of him when he was on the headset. His eyes kept glancing over to the right.
They had like a meme of him sliding back like Jim Halpert from The Office in the car, where he did slide back in his chair a little bit to. I don't know if he was trying to avoid cameras. Anyway, we're going to talk a little NFL today. But, BK, why don't you lay out the big show for us? What do we have?
Big show. We're going to have Scott Pianowski.
Yes.
Did I say his name correctly? I've been working so hard on that. Scott Pianowski, Yahoo Sports, fantasy football writer with him. Get some fantasy football insights.
So we're going to find out how worried you should be about the old angry manatees.
I'm really worried because I drafted Mark Andrews. I fell for it, and once again, he doesn't look like he's part of the game plan.
Okay. I'll ask him about tight ends, what you can do to
help us out, because, Kittle's banged up, and it's one of those positions where there's such a big drop-off between your 2-3 top guys and everyone else, right?
Yeah. Well, that's why you got to draft the tight end early, I suppose.
Yes.
Although I'm sure Brock Bowers was an early draft pick, and he's really has yet to pop, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then at the end of the program,
end of the show, we're going to drag out the randomizer.
Okay.
All right.
That's
that thing has been working overtime.
We got to get our money's worth out of that, Cato.
Well, until that lease is paid off, I mean, we're gonna let's use it as best.
Well, it's under warranty. It's still under warranty.
That's right. Yes. It's a 50,000-mile warranty. Okay, very good. We'll catch up with you momentarily. If you're listening and you want to watch, go to fox13news.com/nodpod. If you're watching and you want to listen or subscribe, you can take your phone and zap that QR code. Screen is right there, and then you go to our show page. It's a different screen, and then you could leave comments on an even different screen, because we have a YouTube channel as well, and then we have an iTunes account. You can leave a 5-star if you feel so inclined. Please subscribe, fox13news.com/nodpod. So for us here locally in the Tampa Bay area, the NFL season kicks off, and your Buccaneers are off to a 2-0 start, and doing it in the most fantastic of ways in both of these games. 2-minute drives at the end of the game. I mean, both of these were white knucklers against Atlanta in week 1 on the road, and then week 2 at Houston on Monday Night Football. They've kind of had their struggles in primetime games in the last couple of years. But, man, when it's closeout time and you got to shine, that's when this team has stepped up and made the most of it. I mean, a lot of that is the credit to Baker Mayfield and just, his competitive drive. I think it's a term that has been bandied about a lot this week, but I think that encapsulates who he is as a player, right? He may not be the guy that is your flashiest quarterback, and he's not always going to get the prettiest first downs, but, man, this guy could take off and run. He's not Lamar Jackson with his feet, but, he broke off that big 15-yarder on a 4th and 10 on that last drive there, the last game-winning drive, and I just think there's a lot of things to be excited about with this team, and one of those, I think, top of the list is the way Baker's playing. Now, he did get little bumps and bruises in that game, which concerning, but you have I think there's like a moxie with this team. When it's crunch time, you want your guys to be able to show up, right? If they wilt in the big moments, that's a concern. The run game showed up in week 2 against the Houston Texans. So, you got Rachaad White producing big time, Bucky Irving, of course. And then, defensively, there's probably still some room for improvement, but that red zone defense has shown up now a couple of times in these first 2 games.
Winfield saved that first game against the Falcons, that play by Winfield.
Absolutely.
That was an incredible play.
And then they make the Texans sit there 1 yard away from scoring, and they hold them on 4 downs?
4 downs,
so
yeah.
I just think that there is enough. It's not perfect, right? There are concerns, and maybe we get to that momentarily, but, the things that you're encouraged by 2 games into the Bucs season.
Yeah, it's the grit. It's the not going away, not fading at the end. That Falcons game was far from perfect, and Baker was far from perfect. I mean, he missed some layups, and he'll be the first to tell you he missed some wide-open guys, but when it counted, that final 2 minutes, he was producing. He's just a baller. He's a gamer. And then he was much sharper in that second game against the Texans. And I think what Bucs fans should be encouraged by is not only are you 1 up on your division foe Atlanta, the Bucs left a lot of points on the field in that game. They could have actually beat the Falcons, I think, by a couple touchdowns, maybe 20 points there. And then to go on the road with the Texans, and this is one we looked at when we did our preseason kind of prognosticating the Bucs' final record for the year. I think we both thought that they would lose that one to the Texans. Because at the time, I didn't know the Texans' offense was going to be kind of putrid. I mean, it's not a good Texans offense at this time. They can't really run the ball. But I'm impressed. As a Bucs fan, you got to be impressed at what your offensive line has done with just moving guys around to cover up injuries, kind of a patchwork line. They've actually done a pretty nice job, as you indicated, creating holes in the running game.
Yeah, and they're not done patching up holes because it sounds like right tackle Luke Gedecke's going to miss some time. He re-injured his foot, which he initially injured week 1, and so that looks like multiple weeks of sitting. Not ideal, right? So now you're out Tristan Wirfs, you're out Gedecke. You've already moved your center over to left tackle. You've moved your guard. You've brought in a practice player to practice squad guy to move to left guard, and obviously. It's patchwork, and they're not done with that. So Charlie Heck's going to get some time at right tackle probably. The injury is a concern. Gedecke's one of them, but the other big one this week was Kalijah Cansey. And, man, this is a guy we talk about him every year before the season, and I'm always high on him and expect a lot, but he just can't stay healthy. He's got like these calf injuries that were repeated the first 2 seasons of his NFL career, and now he's got a pec tear, which is going to keep him out the entire season.
Wow.
And that's tough. I think they're probably going to have to find somebody to fill that. I don't think that that's an internal, promotion. I think they're probably going to have to go out and find somebody. A friend of the show, Will Golston.
Yes,
he's available.
He's right there.
You might have to put that cigar down.
Yeah,
but I think that one really stinks because I was expecting big things from Kalijah Cansey this year, and he just a misfortune, man. To be able to that injury, I know we've seen guys like T.J. Watt. I think suffered that, and he was back. I think later in the season. That happened 2 years ago. But it sounds like this one. I don't know the extent of it, but from just looking into it, apparently, if the tendon tears, right, if it's like a full and the I don't know how it all works, but that it requires even longer. So it could be like 6 months to a year. It's almost like looking at it like not as bad as a Tommy John, but similar. I mean, obviously a lot of pushing and shoving going down in the trenches. So that's a tough loss, man. So to have already been down Wirfs and Godwin coming into the season, and hopefully those guys are back soon, but now Cansey and Gedecke for a shorter period of time, it's just that's a tough start, man.
Yeah, you just got to hope they can keep piecing it together. Back to what Bucs fans should really like from an individual standpoint, outside of Baker's play, which has, again, just when you have a quarterback that can use his legs like that, it does help an offensive line a lot.
Yeah.
And it bails you out of some situations. But the emergence of Emeka Egbuka at receiver is something to be really excited about. He looked good in preseason, but you don't know if that's going to translate all the time when the lights come on in the regular season. And the guy's just like explosive when he gets the ball. He is turning and he's looking for daylight. And, is he a Chris Godwin? No, it's going to be great to get Godwin back. But to have that there, such a safety net, kind of those makes those tough catches. He's a matchup problem for defenses. And then Bucky Irving just continues to astound and look more, as you made the comparison a few weeks ago, more Barry Sanders-esque all the time, and just making guys miss, and so explosive catching the ball as well as running. So a lot to like about the Bucs.
One area on the defensive side, I think QB pressure needs to increase. They've and turnovers, obviously, they need to force more of those. Through these first 2 games, they've had opportunities for a couple of picks. Levante had one right in his mitts on Monday night and didn't pull it in. So if they start taking more advantage of that and actually getting home, I think they're generating pressure. They're just not getting home with the sacks. So once those things start to click, you kind of iron out some of the special teams issues. People have talked about, Chase McLaughlin is maybe a little icy out of the gates. Do you bring in another kicker and try to have a kicking competition? I would say pump the brakes on that a little bit. Chase has been dynamite for this team. So
he has.
I don't know. I feel like you don't want to turn the page too quickly, right? Because you always think maybe the grass is greener, bring in a fresh leg. But this guy has been very good for this team. I would give him the benefit of the doubt. Let him have a few more weeks to iron out some of these issues. If it becomes a constant issue, then you probably have to pull the trigger. I was listening to the Pat McAfee show, and they had Bruce Arians on, and they were going off about how great Baker is, and Arians said something like, Baker owns the town.
Oh, yeah.
And I was thinking about that, and I was like, yeah, that's probably accurate. I mean, he's obviously he's got the heart of Bucs fans. They love him. That did not take long for him to take here. But when I was thinking of okay, well, if I had to say who is the top 5 guys that own the town from a sports standpoint currently, players now, whatever the sport is, I'm trying to come up with who are maybe my top 5 guys that own the town. All right. I came up with a little list right before.
Good. I love lists.
Okay. So Baker's number 1. I think Baker's number 1. I mean, across all sports, if Baker shows up at a Lightning game, it's like the mayor has showed up. It's like, oh, there he is, crushing a beer on the Jumbotron. Number 2 it's got to be Mike Evans. I mean, so. Football's king. And Mike's obviously he's the guy. He's the former or the future gold jacket wearer,
and has done so much for the community too.
Yeah. He's just not. The personality is not as out there as Baker. But I would say number 3. This is where it got a little sticky. I gave a 3A and a 3B. I got Bucky, and I got a Mecca.
Okay.
Tied. They equally, they're co-owners of the town at number 3.
You think so?
I think so.
I don't know if I would have recognized them though at a Lightning game or something like that, unless the spotlight's on them. They say welcoming in Bucky Irving.
So for you need a facial recognition type of thing, in commercials or something out there.
Well,
in
not
the
necessarily commercials, but it's obvious to people at the event, whatever it is in the room that he's in the room. I think older players like Mike Allstott, who's still around town and does a lot. When he shows up at things, people.
Well, sure. My list is just current athletes.
Okay.
Guys that are currently.
Well, that's going to be more narrow.
Yeah. Well, and I wasn't going. I wasn't going how well are they recognized, but those that are beloved right now. Right, that have the heart of the city.
Well,
that,
I would say
can almost do no wrong, and I think Bucky and Emeka quickly shooting up into that. I think they've launched themselves into that stratosphere. Number 4, I'm going hockey. I'm gonna go Nikita Kucherov.
Yeah, Kuch. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about the playoffs, and that's been a little bit of a sticking spot, but I think everybody still loves that guy. And again, a guy that's very understated, except for. After a boat parade. But yeah, I think of the Lightning, he's the guy. And then number 5, I'm putting Junior Caminero up there. Even though the Rays season isn't what they had hoped, he has had an amazing season.
He really
for
has.
the Rays, and he's the reason to watch right now because the playoff run's probably not happening. Almost mathematically eliminated at this point, but he's been amazing. And as we tape, he's at 44 home runs, so he's just a few off the franchise lead. So he's been an electric player, and I think that the fan base, the city, loves that guy.
What about Andrei Vasilevsky? I mean, he's really beloved, popular, kind of a quieter guy, but people love to see him around town.
He's top 10 owning the city. He's top 10. I think he's had higher peaks than where he is right now.
Yeah.
I don't think he's at his peak right now. That's not to say he can't return there, but yeah.
What about Pat Maroon? Didn't he just retire? But he's kind of an ambassador, right?
He is.
For Lightning hockey, and everyone just loves the big rig.
Yeah, they do love the big rig. But again, this was current players. If I had to broaden that net out, then big rig's probably up there. And what's amazing about him is he didn't spend a ton of time in Tampa Bay.
No. But was on some very good teams.
He was one of those guys that just people wanted to love immediately.
Yeah.
And he's just a bigger personality off the ice, and because it coincides when I think Pat Maroon, I think Boat Parade. Yeah. That's what I think. I'm not thinking of a singular play. I'm not thinking of his skills on the ice. I just think this guy equates to winning. He equates to good times in Tampa. So yeah, I agree there. All right. Anything else?
That's a good list.
All right.
I like it. I love lists.
Yeah. So the Bucs there now returning home as they take on the Jets. Looking to improve.
There is one more thing
I
wanted to. I cut you off there, but I wanted to mention. There was a while, and we talked about this. We never brought this to our viewers or listeners, but we thought there was a nodpod curse because early in this show's infancy, we had a lot of guests, and it seemed like every time we had a guest on, they would have an awful game next week, or say, it was a NASCAR driver who would crash out early in a race. And then, so many other things, too. And
the curse is broken.
But then, yes, the curse is broken. Explain, Scott.
Well, last week we had Ryan Miller on with his
did.
brother Keaton. And I mean, I'm not sure. I've not seen Dracula yet, but I'm sure that's going to be fantastic. But it was Ryan himself that caught a touchdown pass on Monday Night Football.
The Bucs' first touchdown.
I thought the same thing. I'm like, the curse is broken. Ryan Miller has broken it. He doesn't understand what that means. We'd been burdened with so much.
Does he automatically
guilt.
go into Ring of Honor, Nodpod Rod, or not Ring of Dignity?
I think we need to have a post-show meeting about this. Yeah, I would definitely nominate him for that. All right, coming up on the other side, it's time to get your fantasy football rosters set. We have Scott Pianowski, who happens to be a Fantasy Sports Writers Association Hall of Famer.
Oh.
The guy has been doing it for a long time, so if you need to get your fantasy lineup set for Sunday, he's the man to take care of you. That's next.
I need help.
Welcome back to the No Off Days podcast. Chris, I know we're about to talk fantasy football. How are the Angry Manatees doing just 2 weeks into the young season?
We are off to a 1-1 start.
Okay.
We got smoked week 1 by our friend Jason McDowell. Got a stacked roster.
J-Mac.
And I started Bo Nix week 1, and that didn't go well. 8 points, I think. Week 2, rebounded. I played the guy who was the worst in the league, Sean Barry, the bottom feeder of the league last year, and had a good week against him.
Good.
How about your spud shooters? How are they doing?
Spud shooters, it was reverse order. So came out with a nice season opening win, had some confidence, some wind in our sail, and then we fell just short this last week. It was a tough week, a narrow loss. We put up some decent points, but the guy I was playing, former meteorologist Tyler Eliason.
Yeah.
He's got a good squad, man.
Yeah.
They've been putting in some work.
Watch out for Uncle Rico.
He's always in it. So I needed Bucky. I got Bucky on my squad, and I needed him to have a huge Monday night game. And I think had he run that last touchdown in instead of Rachaad White, not that I'm angry that Rachaad got the touch. Not that I'm angry about that or anything.
Isn't it strange the things that fantasy makes us cheer for?
Yeah, this is why I went on a fantasy cleanse for about 8 years, and I didn't do it at all. Yeah. And then I got roped back in.
It always happens.
Mark Wilson. All right, let's get to our interview now with Scott Pianowski. What do you say we talk a little fantasy football? Joining me now, Scott Pianowski, longtime writer with Yahoo Sports. Scott, great to see you. So 2 games in, and we've already got a handful of big-time quarterbacks going down. Joe Burrow, J.J. McCarthy, and to some extent, some are longer than others, right? But Justin Fields, Brock Purdy, Jaden Daniels. Which of these backups on these teams would you think are good options for fantasy owners? Or is this a situation where if you had one of those quarterbacks as your starter that you're maybe hitting the waiver claims?
Yeah, it's probably a combination of both those things. But, Jake Browning in Cincinnati, he was the starter 2 years ago. He gets 7 starts, And he was a top 10 quarterback, I want to say 4 or 5 different times. He's not Joe Burrow. Nobody expects that, but they still have Jamar Chase. They still have T. Higgins. So I think Browning can be maybe a top 15 quarterback going forward. You'll have to live with some interceptions. And again, the octane of the offense goes down somewhat, but at least there's some proof of concept here. If you're playing the waiver wire, nobody knew what to do with Daniel Jones after that big week 1. And then he validates it with another 20-plus points in week 2 against Denver, probably the best defense in the NFL, at least one of the top 3 or 4. And look at the pieces he has here. Jonathan Taylor's running at a very high level. Michael Pittman is rejuvenated. The tight end Warren, the rookie, has been fantastic. They have other receivers that I like. So the Colts can be maybe a top 10, top 12 offense. We know Jones will supplement his value with the running game. So I think he's a valuable guy who wasn't probably respected in the free agent market a week ago because maybe Miami's just a bad team. But we feel a lot better about Jones now that he's done it twice and done it against a strong opponent.
Yeah, let's stay there. I mean, because there's a handful of guys kind of in that group with Jones that probably weren't draft picks, but like Russell Wilson's in there. I mean, Drake May's not looking too shabby. Like, would you suggest that folks ride those hot hands or pick them up as backups? How would you go forward with those quarterbacks?
Yeah. What's really hard about Wilson is he was so bad in week 1, so great in week 2, and we even saw Jackson Darkin on the field very briefly in that game against Dallas. So I always feel like Russell Wilson is maybe just a bad half of football or 3/4 of football from maybe getting benched. He is working with Malik Neighbors, which helps. What we like with Drake May, we saw this with J.J. McCarthy before he got hurt. May is going to supplement his value through the ground, through the running game. And that's something most of the quarterbacks now do a little bit of that. Some quarterbacks run more than others. Jalen Hurts gets all those push touchdowns. Lamar Jackson runs for about 900 yards a year. We'll expect Jaden Daniels to be around there. I think May can run for maybe 450, something like that, 3 to 5 touchdowns. He was mobile in that game against Miami, bad Miami defense, of course. He'll be challenged much more this week against Pittsburgh. But when you're trying to figure out who is your backup, who is your upside, who is your fill-in at quarterback, having that extra way, and it's like another out in poker, just another way to make your hand, right? Even if May doesn't have a great day passing the ball, he may run for 30 to 40 yards, maybe a 50%, 35%, something like that chance at a rushing touchdown. It's just nice to have that in your back pocket as a way to get home in a fantasy week.
I want to go back to the Bengals and that offense. Obviously, Jamar Chase was a top pick for many teams. How concerned should folks be that have him if you're moving forward without Burrow? I mean, it sounds like you still feel pretty good that offense is going to be able to move the sticks.
Yeah, if I were drafting today, I would have no problem taking Chase in the top 4 or 5 picks. Now, that's a little bit of a come down because he was the consensus number 1 overall pick all summer. But because we've seen Browning play in this offense before, we saw he looked pretty good last week. I get it that injury in the middle of a game, you don't have a game plan. The defense hasn't game planned for the starter, so things will be different going forward. But Chase is still a first-round talent. And also, the concentration of this offense is very narrow, meaning they don't use a lot of guys. So if they throw 35 passes in a day, it may be 12 to Chase, 12 targets, and maybe 8 to 10 targets to T. Higgins. They need to get Chase Brown going. Right now, Cincinnati, by the stats, has the worst running game in the league, partially because their offensive line has played so poorly. But it's mostly the Chase show, the Higgins show, the Chase Brown show. They'll sprinkle in the tight ends. They'll get a third receiver involved here and there. But because it's such a concentrated offense, it means that we know where the ball is going most of the time. Now, there are other teams that they use third receivers, fourth receivers, fullbacks. Maybe the quarterback runs some, and that splinters fantasy production. It can make it a lot harder to know where the stats are going to wind up. We don't have that problem with Cincinnati. And also, let's not forget one other thing. This defense still looks pretty bad. I realize they signed Hutchinson, their pass rusher, to an extension. They needed to do that. But this is going to be a bottom 5, bottom 10 defense. There'll be a lot of shootouts with the Bengals. So if you drafted Chase, you obviously were dreaming of the Burrow and Chase hookup. That's dead, at least for the next few months. But Jamar Chase is still a first-round talent and somebody I wouldn't worry about going forward.
So depending on what kind of league you're in, I mean, maybe you can't afford to kind of play the long game with some of these rookies. But if you can, what rookies are worth the investment, say, a month from now that you think are going to really pop?
Yeah, that's a great question because, right now, believe it or not, there isn't a single rookie running back that has 100 yards rushing. That's just mind-blowing to me. There's only one rookie running back who has more than 100 total yards, and that's Dylan Sampson, who may have already been usurped somewhat by Judkins, the other rookie in Cleveland. Judkins is going to be a story that pops right away. He's somebody I would play in week 3. But if you're playing that long game, Travion Henderson, a very bad run out for him, hasn't played all that much through 2 weeks. We saw Gibson get a little bit involved. We saw Stevenson be better than we expected in week 3. But they knew Henderson was going to be a splash play guy, maybe a 10 to 14 touches a week person, not really a bell cow, but they're going to get him going eventually. And he's somebody I would love to pick off. In a couple of weeks, the buys are going to hit. The injuries are obviously going to be around all season, and people will start cutting or looking to trade people who don't help them immediately. And that's a really good time. You can maybe even do some of it now to sit. If you're in a position where you're 2-0 right now, or maybe at the end of the month, you're 3-1, 4-0, something like that. You may have the time to wait on a Henderson. You may have the time to wait on an RJ Harvey in Denver. They like Dobbins a lot. He's good in pass pro, but Harvey's probably the more explosive back. You would think maybe in the middle of the season, he starts to spread his wings. And Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, okay, big summer, good week 1, only 10 carries. He only had 4 carries in the second game, the Thursday night game, but they fell behind so quickly in that game. He never really got into the flow of the game. We know Eckler is hurt now. Eckler is a back who does different things, but I think Merritt going forward is 12 to 15 touches. I like what I've seen of him. I like his instincts. I think he's somebody who could end the season with maybe 1,000 rushing yards, 7 to 9 touchdowns. He'll probably catch 25 or 30 passes by accident. We'll see how they react after Robinson's been traded and Eckler now out for the season and maybe out for the rest of his career. Hat tip to Austin Eckler for being a great fantasy player for so many years. But I think JCM went from overrated maybe a week or two ago to underrated after the week 2 run out. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't get 13 to 15 carries in week 3.
All right, quick break in the action, and on the other side, we'll have more with Scott. We'll get you some stardom, sit-em advice for this week's games coming up on the nodpod. Welcome back to the No Off Days podcast. Last block, we kicked things off with Scott Pianowski, fantasy sports writer for Yahoo Sports. Been there for a long time, and he's got a lot of wise counsel for all of us that are in fantasy leagues. You know, if you got a little bit of money on it, you're a little bit more serious, you know, and I know you're serious about it too. You got to figure out your whole tight end situation.
Tight end situation is not good.
Perhaps we can get to that now as our interview continues with Scott Pianowski from Yahoo.
Here in Tampa, we got a pretty special rookie and receiver, Emeka Egbuka, and you know we're basing this on 2 weeks of data, right? But 3 touchdown catches through those 2 games, not a ton of yards. Is he a guy, if you have him on your roster, is he a must start every week? Is he kind of a wait and see? How do you assess his value?
Yeah, it's a great question. We did a Discord over at Yahoo right before we started this interview, and I was asked somebody said, where do you rank Egbuka going forward? And I had him at wide receiver 26. So on the cusp of that wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 cut line. There are other good targets and options in this offense. They have 2 talented running backs. I even think Sean Tucker might be the best number 3 running back in the NFL. He can't get on the field right now. Obviously, Mike Evans, a walk-in Hall of Famer. You would hope that they get Godwin back at some point, but that's probably down the road. The thing with Egbuka is he went to Ohio State, and by his sophomore year, he was a competitive, productive player, despite all sorts of talent around him. We know, JSN was there, and Olave was there, and Marvin Harrison eventually came there. Garrett Wilson. They've had so many talented receivers, and the fact that he became relevant so quickly means a lot to me. The fact that he's been relevant with Tampa Bay the first 2 weeks, he had the game-winning touchdown in week 1. He was heard from in week 2. You're right, the targets have not been huge, but I think there'll be more passing volume to come. So, again, I was asked that in the Discord. I said wide receiver 26. That means in most leagues he would be a starter as a low-end wide receiver 2, a high-end wide receiver 3, and certainly the future very bright for this kid. I think they made the right pick in the first round.
Scott, you're based in Detroit, right?
That's right.
The Detroit area. All right. So let me ask you about these Lions, because, you know, I know that a lot of folks are putting a lot of stock into a handful of guys in that offense, and we saw some issues. It was a rocky week 1. Week 2, they bounced right back, even without Ben Johnson as your OC. Will this offense, you think, moving forward, look more like week 2, what we saw this last week against the Bears?
Yeah, that's a great question. They do nothing in week 1, but maybe that's about Green Bay's defense being a top 5 unit. They go crazy in week 2, but maybe the Bears have a lot of issues going on, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Detroit, one of those teams that's very sensitive, home road. indoor, outdoor. I've heard some people in the fantasy industry call Ford Field the Coors Field of fantasy football because Detroit seems to just play much better on that fast track. They have a very difficult slate of road games this year. They actually went undefeated on the road last year, but they're generally better indoors. We know they play Baltimore this week on the road, which will be a challenge on Monday night. A great game. Get your popcorn ready for that one. I think it's a top 7, top 8 offense with the upside of maybe a top 5 offense. It's not going to be the 33-point team we saw last year. Everybody knew that. They lose Ben Johnson. They lose a couple of interior linemen that were important, especially Frank Ragnow, their center, who was excellent. But they have a veteran quarterback in Goff. He remembers the plays that work. He remembers where Amon-Ra St. Brown wants the ball. He knows that Jameson Williams can run by any defense. He knows that Sam Laporta is one of the 5 or 6 best tight ends in the league right now, 2 excellent running backs in Gibbs and Montgomery who do different things well. And the offensive line is still decent. It's not the number 1 road grading unit it's been for the last few years, but add it all up, I said top 7 or top 8 at minimum. I think maybe top 4, top 5 if things pop right. I don't think it will be the best offense in the NFL, but they're giving us 5 or 6 startable players every week for fantasy, and you can't say no to that. We'll be better at home. Goff isn't a quarterback who runs, so at least he spreads the touchdowns to other people, but you're not getting that backboard I mentioned when we talked about quarterback options. That's why Jared Goff is never an automatic starter when they're on the road, but I still think it's a very bankable offense, and I'm happy to play 2 or 3 of these guys pretty much every week.
All right, let's do a little stardom sit-em. So if, for the guys that you really love this week, who are maybe top 2 or 3 guys that if you have, you're going this week big time?
Yeah, let's look at running back. Travis Etienne, I think eventually might get usurped by Tootin. We talked about the slow developing rookies, and he's a guy I definitely would like to hold. He looked really good in week 2. We know they made the trade with Tanks Bigsby, but Etienne's been so good in the first 2 weeks, and he's getting involved in the passing game. And it was really important for him to put some footing down because a new coaching staff, they inherited Etienne. How did they really feel about him? Etienne, did they trust him? I know Houston is not an easy matchup. You saw that last night with the Buccaneers and the Texans playing a low-scoring game. But I think Etienne is somebody we can probably start confidently for the next few weeks. Kenneth Walker, nothing in week 1, better in week 2. And what I really liked was the high success rate. It wasn't that he just busted off 1 or 2 long runs. He had a bunch of chunk plays getting to the second level of that Pittsburgh defense. Now he faces the Saints. They're 0-2. They really haven't stopped much of anything going forward. So I play him confidently. Do people realize, I don't understand this. Now, Juwan Johnson is rostered in fewer than 50% of Yahoo leagues. He's in the 40s as we talk today. He's been a top 5 tight end the first 2 weeks. The Saints are throwing the ball like crazy. They play at a fast pace with Kellen Moore. And again, the concentration of the passing offense. It's Olave, it's Shaheed, it's Juwan Johnson. They signed him to an extension in the spring. He's getting a lot of slot snaps. We want our tight ends running routes. We don't want them blocking. We don't want them taking out the trash. We want them going out for a pass. I have Juwan Johnson ahead of Travis Kelce. I have him ahead of TJ Hawkinson. I have him ahead of a lot of veteran tight ends who you might think are automatically plays over him. I think he's an automatic start going forward until he gives you any reason to back off that. The Saints are, they're not a punching bag. They've been competitive. They're probably going to win 3 or 4 games, but at least they have some fantasy options there. So Juwan Johnson is somebody maybe not drafted in a lot of leagues, maybe drafted as a backup. I think we have to bump him into the automatic start tight end crew going forward.
Well, 2 weeks into the season, I'm already in a bit of a tight end panic. So I just put a claim in. Hopefully nobody in my league is listening. But hopefully I could tag Johnson this week. All right. So guys, maybe stay away from this week, even though you like them as a whole, maybe not the best matchup here in week 3.
Yeah. Kyron Williams makes me nervous. Blake Corum stole a tight touchdown, a close end touchdown from last week. Usually Williams is the goal line guy, but Corum getting a little bit more involved. And now he plays a Philadelphia defensive front as long as nobody gets ejected before the opening snap. That's a really tough team to run on, so I'm a little bit concerned there. I know a lot of people are going to look at Jordan Mason as an automatic start this week, but just remember, backup quarterback, offensive line has not played well. J.J. McCarthy was getting sacked like crazy. So I think Mason's going to get the volume, and we know Cincinnati is a team that we want to attack. But I just want to be a little bit careful what my expectations are there. I think Marion Hampton is another rookie who maybe is a slow developing Polaroid. Denver defense didn't do much despite 2 wins for the Chargers. Harris will have a role there. Maybe that team is going to pass more proactively than we thought. Quentin Johnston has been somebody who's been one of the waiver wire finds in the early part of the season. Justin Herbert just reminding you that he's still here. He's still productive. I know people see Dallas and probably get excited about the Chicago passing game this week, but Caleb Williams isn't playing that well. And it turns out that Adunze is probably their number 1 receiver. I don't think DJ Moore is an automatic start anymore. If you're in a medium or shallow league, he's more of a wide receiver 3 guy. And if you have somebody who popped, maybe you like Wan'Dale Robinson, who's done some things. Maybe you feel good about Marquise Brown, who's needed in Kansas City. I'm not going to sign off on DJ Moore as being the automatic start that maybe he was viewed as when you drafted him a month ago.
Interesting. Yeah, I think a lot of folks thought that the Bears were going to have just this instant magical offense with Ben Johnson kind of making the recipe work, but maybe it's a little slower going. All right, so I got to ask you this, guy. So a lot of leagues, they punish the team that finishes last. What is the best punishment that you've heard?
I know a lot of leagues, you finish last, they kick you out of the league, which is a pretty good punishment. They make people run the draft party the next year. Wear a shirt of questionable taste and coloring sometimes can work. I mean, it all speaks to whatever you want to do, whatever your group is into. I mean, some people are into more of the public shaming. Some people are more like, no, you're playing for your life. You want to be in this league, you have to finish in the top 10 or you're not invited back. But I like leagues where you're playing for something the next season, where if you don't do well, maybe you get a bad draft pick the next year, or maybe you get less money in the free agent pool or in the auction or something like that. So people, when they don't have a competitive team, they're still fighting for free agents. They're still putting their best lineup out because they don't want to be penalized the next year. So I actually think that's a more practical thing than a more fun thing, perhaps. But, whatever it is that works with your group, it's all about fun. It's all about relationships. It's all about a way to, be close to your family or your college buddies or the people you work with, whatever it is, just a way for us to connect. So it's really a personal question for people, but as long as you're making it fun and it's in good spirit, I'm in favor of it.
Well, I like the idea of a little maybe relegation. That would be an interesting twist.
Sure.
Scott, we appreciate your time. Thanks for getting us ready for our fantasy lineups here in week 3.
Great to talk to you. Thanks for having me.
All right, time to get those rosters locked in and set. Oh, wait, are you doing a waiver claim right now as we speak?
I'm making a note here. Don't start Joe Burrow this week. Okay.
Oh, man. Rough week for quarterbacks last week. All right, coming up on the other side, it is time to dust off the old randomizer. BK's going to put the spark plugs in, and it's ready to run. That's coming up, our fun block. Next on Oh Boy. Welcome back to the No Off Days podcast. Last week we had a viewer-submitted game for our fun block, Chris, and it was a hit. It was the Shakespeare versus Taylor Swift lyrics, which is which. And we encourage you to continue to bring in more great ideas that we can incorporate into the nodpod. And this week, the inbox was absolutely flooded, Chris.
Yeah, some people wanted to see us sumo wrestle.
Yes.
We got a lot of weird requests.
Yes. That would be an HR violation, unfortunately. So instead, randomizer. We're back to the randomizer with that. Let's bring in BK. BK, lay the ground rules out for the randomizer for those that are new to the program.
New to the program. Okay, all we do is we got this machine. You guys fire it up. It starts spitting out questions, random questions, just rotating as fast. I think there's like 1,000 questions in there. You guys say stop, voice-activated machine. You stop it, and then boom, we read whatever the question is.
Okay. Brian just gave a lot of hand signals right there, so I think he sent the runner to second, and then he called him safe at third. It was and he landed. He just put the hit and run on. I think
he landed a plane too.
Yeah.
You guys, man.
All right. Okay. So, Chris, you can have the honors.
Oh, good.
I'll let you start this thing.
I am so prepared for this. All right, let's spin that thing. I need to leave for dinner soon. All right, stop.
What is a recurring dream that you always have? A recurring dream. Do y'all have those?
Yeah.
I don't really. Wow. I've had the falling dream several times, but I wouldn't call it recurring. Where they say if you're having the falling dream and you hit the ground, you die. But I've hit the ground before in my dream. I've fallen from great heights, hit the ground, and I just kind of roll. I do a soft roll, and I get up and I kind of go, that was kind of fun. Yeah, could we do that again?
Okay.
I can't really think of any. Not that I've had a recurring dream. No.
Since getting into this business, I have consistently had a missing slot, missing my time.
Your
that I'm supposed to be
deadline,
on to
yeah.
deadline. That is constant, and so that would for the last 20 years that has been probably my most frequent dream, and a lot of times. I don't know why. I kid you not. I get out to set. I'm late. I don't know what I'm going to say, and I just run out there, and I realize I look down and I don't have pants on.
Yeah.
Like that happens a lot too. So
Yeah.
I don't know what that says. It's like you are not prepared.
Well, a psychologist would tell you need to invest in some pants.
I don't know. BK, you got any?
I have that deadline dream all the time, but also have dreams that I am always trying to find a place to sleep. I am just so tired in my dreams. So it could be something like I'm pumping gas, and I think, all right, if I just lean up against the car for like 10 seconds, get a 10-second nap, and then I wake up and I got, hip-high gasoline all around me.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Sleeping within the dream.
That is a tired man who dreams about getting sleep.
And this dream is not good. This sleep is not good enough.
Every
I need
dream,
sleep inside my sleep. Yeah.
That's
Every
Inception.
dream. So,
No,
yeah.
you've had you tell us in the sports office quite frequently about some of your dreams, and it's always you wake up and somebody's in your bed.
That might be for the nodpod after hours
Oh.
episode.
No,
Some
but
of
it's
us.
like it's the most you've told me that I was in your bed once.
That is not true.
You did.
Wow.
You
That
have
is
said
not
that.
True. There's been.
You woke up.
I remember me and my wife were looking for a barn house in one dream, and then she was going to look at one area, and I said, all right, I'm going here. I got to get some sleep. So there was a bed right there. I went to lay down, and then I woke up, and there was somebody else in the bed with me. And I go, what is this?
And it was Scott.
It wasn't Scott. I do not
It's
recall.
a lot of people. It's just random people.
Yeah. But that's it. That's
It's
sleep.
people that you want to get away from.
Man.
And you think in your moment of peace
Yeah.
and serenity, like, surely I'll get away from them. And that's when you wake up in your dream and that person is laying there. Hey,
Yeah. Why is
deadlines.
That?
Come
Why
on,
is-
BK, get back to work. That's probably what it is.
Oh,
Thinking
boy.
too much.
We
All
should
right.
have done that
The
one.
man who
funny.
dreams about sleeping. I love it.
All right, let's spin it. Stop.
Have you ever belonged to a fan club? How about that?
Well,
Yeah.
we need to start the Nodpod fan club, and then
should.
I'll join that. Yes, I think two. I think I've been a part of two fan clubs in my life. Not long running, but I was the first fan club I was ever in was I believe it was WWF.
Oh, really? Okay.
Their fan club, and I joined it simply because I wanted. If you joined the fan club, you would get a cassette tape of all the intro music for all the wrestlers.
yeah. Yes.
And so that was like the height of when we had like sleepovers, your
Yeah.
buddies, and
You
of
needed that
course,
intro
that
music.
was that
Yeah.
was clutch. You needed that. And then a little bit later in life, I joined the 10 Club, the old
Yes.
Pearl Jam fan club, and that was short lived, but it was pretty cool. They would give you. Have you been a part of that?
That was my answer. That is the one fan club I'm still in.
You're in it.
I still pay my
Okay.
$10, $15 a month, whatever it is.
Do they still give out 45s?
No, they don't give out as much as they used to, honestly. There's been a lot of complaining about that. And you used to have access to like these better concert tickets, and now that's really limited too.
Oh.
They'll cut
So
you
what's
some
the-
deals
what's the
sometimes.
perk?
Well, you get the monthly newsletter, which lets you see what's going on, what's coming up. you get let me finish. You get access to if they're having new songs released, you get to download it first.
Okay.
So you get
All
you
right,
also
that's
if they do have a concert, you get. I'm not saying prices are better, but you get first stab at it. You get early entry into the ticket buying room, which has come in handy. And I did get an EP, a record off of there a few months ago that was greatly reduced in price. I'll say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think I was only a member for like a year or two, but I got like one of the small 45 records.
Yeah.
That's what they are, right? That's
Yeah.
what they're called.
Right.
And there was a couple singles on there. I want to know. I wonder if I still have it.
Yeah,
It might
find
be
it.
in one of my bins.
Get it.
I bet I can sell it to you.
I've
for
got
a
the
cool-
record player.
Would you buy it off
I'd
me?
give you $10 for it.
Okay.
10. It's
No.
always 10.
What about you, BK?
I was a member of this Braves Junior fan club back when I was a kid for Atlanta Braves, and
yes.
then grew up and I became a fan of the member of the Prince fan club.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
What kind of perks came with that?
a lot of puffy shirts and
Some
purple-
platform
lot
shoes.
of purple stuff.
Yeah.
No, but that was I thought I was going to
Shirts
get. I got a
versus
T-shirt.
blouses.
I did get a T-shirt out of that, and then thought I was cool wearing it to school, and everybody laughed at me. So
They did?
They shouldn't
Yeah,
have. That's a
Prince,
cool.
man.
Prince is great. A great
but not-
musician.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't think we explained to people at home that 10 Club is the Pearl Jam fan club.
Oh, yeah.
Let's just make
let's
that,
do that.
put that out there. Okay.
Okay. Are there anything
We
else?
got one more. You want to do one more?
Yeah.
Is this
Fire
mine?
it.
Okay. Fire it away, sir. And stop.
Ooh, what is your favorite noise?
What is that?
Gosh. I have some unfavorite noises. Leaf blowers,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
worst.
that's been established.
I mean, who doesn't like a good? If you've ever slept in a house that has a tin roof, rain falling on a roof's peaceful. I think going back to childhood again, but it's as we've well documented, I grew up in the woods in Alabama, but crickets chirping at night. Summer's not too blazing hot yet, so you can sleep with the windows open. And to me, that is the best white noise, the best soundtrack is crickets chirping.
Bugs.
Sometimes you get
The sound of bugs.
yeah. Sometimes it's cicada season, and you get
That's awful.
the trill
You like
of the.
that?
Oh, it just puts me right to sleep. Oh,
my
a
gosh.
great cicada. Oh, it's so peaceful.
Oh, I hate that noise.
No, it's great.
Cicadas are
Yeah, I'm
so
gonna go
loud.
with crickets or cicadas screaming at me. That's my favorite sound. I also second place would be bacon sizzling in the frying pan.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, I would say. I mean, if you get your grill nice and hot and you throw a steak on there, that sear noise.
Yeah,
oh,
that's a
that's a
good
great noise. I don't know. I'll just do the sappy one. I think like listening. My wife sends me old videos of our kids sometimes.
just
to
to
throw me off
torture
my
you.
game. Yeah. And like my kids' laughter, like when they were little babies.
Oh, yeah.
Is just like my son sounded like a squeaky toy. Like, and that's probably my favorite noise.
That's a good one.
I don't know. I'd have to. I'd think through it a little bit more, but yeah, there's probably some better noises out there. But
What about when you open your Hard Rock betting app and it makes that cha-ching sound because your parlay hit? That's a good sound. Cha-ching.
I'm not as familiar with that one.
Yeah.
BK, you got one?
I'm going to go sappy too, Scott. You know that right as the field is taking the green flag at Daytona and all 40 cars are all ripped. That's a great sound to me.
Oh yeah.
That and Kid, I don't know if y'all did this with the ice cream man. Did y'all have ice cream men driving around?
Oh
your
yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure.
That's
When
big.
you heard that ice cream truck
Just-
far
Yeah.
away,
Just
that you
chaos.
know it's coming.
Yes.
Holy cow! You went running, scrambling for money.
Looking in the seat cushions
That was a
everywhere.
great
Mom,
sound.
Dad, where you at? I need something. Give me it now.
Yes.
I
Because-
got to get a fix.
You got.
I got to get
Come
my
on,
bomb pop.
And then you finally get something. You're running down the street after it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all play that same song. I forget what it is. Yeah,
Something
it
like
has
that.
a name, like
Yeah.
Turkey in the Hen House or something.
Yeah. It's just like Pavlov's dog. It's just it gets the kids react. It's ice cream time. Very good. That was fun.
We're
Thanks,
done.
BK.
Good job, guys.
Good job, Randomizer. Much thanks to our guest this week, Scott Pianowski from Yahoo Sports. Hopefully he helps you with your fantasy teams get a big win this week. Much thanks to our studio crew. We got Rochelle over here on the jib. We got Chris with the K on the ones and twos. For BK in the booth and Chris, I'm Scott. Until next time we're on, there are no off days.
Never an off day around here.
No. Ice cream man.